Good morning, New Brunswick. I'm Charlie Cradaville, and it is November 4th. Welcome to the New Brunswick Today Show Special Election Edition. I've got a special guest for you today. He wants to be your next governor. Please welcome Mr. Matthew Riccardi. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure. Thanks, Charlie. How's it going?
Going well. Thanks for coming to New Brunswick. A lot of our viewers might not know you. You're from not too far away. You live in Tinton Falls, you just told me.
That's right.
And you're running with the Constitution Party.
That's right, yeah.
So tell me, how'd you get, this is your first time running for anything, right?
Yeah, that's right.
How'd you decide to want to be governor, and how'd you get, how'd you align yourself with that party? What made you want to run?
So basically, I turned 30 in December. You got to be 30 in order to run.
Yes, you do.
Yes, I turned 30 in December, and in January, I just, thinking about the future of the state and obviously the fact that it's such a bad state for millennials. We're the worst state in the country, and the most millennials leaving from our state. I've got a family, I'm a young family, I've got a young business, and trying to grow it and trying to be prosperous, trying to have a place where they can actually get outside and play and spend their time out there. A place where you've got education, that's good, New Jersey's pretty good, but where there's a lot of opportunities for the future. So I'm thinking of myself and the fact that New Jersey is really, in a stranglehold at this point. We're falling off a cliff. And my whole thing is that I wanted to be able to have a future here in the state that I was born and raised. And the only way to do that, and the only way to embody the beliefs that I have and the goals that I have for my family and for this state, is to step up and do it myself. So in January, I just say, you know what, somebody's got to go fight, because the two parties, really, the two candidates that they were offering aren't people that I believe stand for the Constitution. They're people that have their own agendas that are, in my opinion, that are linked back to political, or party bosses and political special interests. And the only way to fix that and to honor the system of liberty and to honor the Constitution is to, again, step up and bring leadership. So that's what I did. The Constitution Party, I called up several parties, and every single one of them gave me their endorsement. They all wanted me to run for them. So I chose the Constitution Party because, again, it stands for the Constitution. They're people it's very similar to a libertarian style, but I think better. But they line up with the Constitution in every single way and fight for life and for liberty. So that's key to me, and I decided to pick them. So
okay, so you must be the youngest candidate on the ballot.
Yes,
probably.
yeah, for sure. I'll be the youngest governor if I win by a landslide. I think it's 42 was the youngest governor.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting for me. I'm to interview a candidate for governor.
Yep.
You're younger than me.
Fellow millennial, right?
Yeah, I'm 32. So tell me, how'd you get to where you're at? You said you started a business.
Yep.
Tell me, did you go to college?
Yep.
Where'd you go?
So I was at 17. I decided to join the Marines.
Okay.
That was in 2004, right after the war had begun. I grew up in Union City. It was a tough place. I grew up in a 400 square foot box. So the people of many people of New Brunswick and in the cities, we can relate and understand each other in the way that life is, because it's very difficult inside of the smaller cities, or inside of the cities that have a lot of poverty and things like that. So I was a fighter, and I decided that I want to go fight. And then I went into the Marines, and I ended up going overseas for 25 months, and spent time all throughout the East, and some time in the support element for the war. When I was finishing, I decided that I had to go to school, because I made a promise when I joined the Marines, and that promise was to my mother, who passed away while I was in, and that was that I would go to school. So I got out and I went to Brookdale Community College for 2 years, and then from there I went to transfer to the Ivy League to UPenn, and then in the middle of that I had a son, and I decided that I was going to take some time off, so I stepped outside of school, and I decided to raise my son because things weren't going so well. And during that time, I took up my dad's business, which is legal services, so investigation, foreclosures, inspections, things like that. And I was doing that for a few years when I decided to get back into it and go back to school. So I went back and just finished this year. I was starting. I finished up this year, and now I've started to go to business or to law school. I'll decide on that depending on how this election goes.
Sure.
But I decided then from there I decided to become a candidate for governor, because again, everything that I mentioned before.
Sure. Now, tell me, what can people expect if you become the next governor?
Yeah.
What types of changes would you make? What are your big issues, big priorities?
Sure. Yeah. So for me, I bring liberty, integrity, prosperity, and my platform again is people over politics. So I'm trying to bring back integrity and accountability to government like we haven't seen it in a very long, like millennials have never seen it, but like we haven't seen it in a very long time in this country. So from day one, what I'd like to do is I'd like to create an independent ethics council, and in doing so, we would like to not only obviously audit the state government and audit the executive office. The key is to start from within. You got to clean house. So you've heard, obviously President Trump talk about drain the swamp, and now that's big. People, we got to get rid of the politicians. For me, it's you got to start from within. You got to clean house from within. So work within the executive branch to look at every single piece of the budget and what we're spending and where it's going, and audit it and figure out where the waste is, where the fraud is, where the corruption is, and get rid of it and put that money back into the system. But that's not enough, right? Because maybe it's hidden, maybe you can't really get to it. So what we need, and we also need to take steps forward after the audit. So for me, we create an independent ethics council where regular people are put into this council, and they are going to keep their eyes on my cabinet, on the executive branch. And if anyone is involved in special interests, if anyone is involved in lobbying, if there's even a hint of doing anything that is wrong or immoral, that person will automatically be fired. If it comes from me, if it's me myself, I would resign. So we want to bring transparency, we want to bring integrity and accountability, because I feel like that's what most people are looking for these days. They're sick and tired. We can disagree on a lot of issues, and people will accept that. But they won't accept a government that continues to lie and continues to take money from special interests, continues to not stand for the people. So that's one of the most key issues for me. There are several others. We need leadership. The only way to fix the tax problem in the state, the only way to make it more affordable in the state, which is what we need, what millennials need, what everybody needs, is by bringing leadership. Leadership that stands for the Constitution, leadership that understands every single person within our state and what it is that we all need in order to be able to take steps forward to fixing our debt problem, to fixing our jobs problem, to fixing our business climate and our economic outlook. So that's where I stand on that.
Okay. You mentioned President Trump. A lot of people would say that he's corrupt, he's a liar.
Yeah.
Are you one of those people? Do you think he should be impeached and removed?
No, I don't. I don't think that he should. I think that's harsh.
You think he's doing good?
I think that he's doing okay. I think that he's got a lot of issues where he, with regards to his Twitter, with regards to the rhetoric that he's used, which is why he's getting so much backlash. But I think that he's doing his job. I think that he's trying to get things done. And I think that the greatest issue, again, where he may be having the most trouble, is the fact that he doesn't he hasn't brought the leadership that's necessary as far as constitutional leadership. Basically, what I'm talking about, people that can coalesce around the Constitution and say, even though I have my own agenda, or even though I have my own beliefs, we have to be able to look at each other and find out, hey, does the Constitution stand for it or does it not? So some programs are unconstitutional and we have them there in the federal government. We should have them in the state government, but maybe not in the federal, but they exist. So what we need to do is we need to come together and look at it and say, should we really be putting our money into this? Should we really be funding all of these different things? Should we really be taking this type of a stance on these different issues? And if the answer is no, then we should scrap that policy and move on. If the answer is yes, then we've got to be able to suck it up and we've got to go forward and try to take whatever measures possible to try and create different legislation or create awareness in order to impact those issues. So I think that it'd be great if the legislature and the Congress would work with the president, and if he would do the same and push all the rhetoric aside and get past the whole fake news and attacks. I think that would be the best foot forward, but as of right now, we don't see that.
How about our current governor, Chris Christie? Do you support him? Did
No.
you support him?
No. Governor Christie's been an abysmal failure in my opinion. And again, it goes back to leadership and the leadership that we've had. Obviously, it's not leadership if you're shutting down a bridge, if you're shutting down a beach. I mean, that's despicable. So the bad policies, the lobbying, the special interests, from what I've been told, from what I've read, and from what I've seen through the media, with regards to his cabinet, with regards to himself, with the Sandy funds and so many other areas, the money at MetLife Stadium, and just a mess. So you cannot expect our society, you cannot expect the people of your state or the people of your country to behave in a different way if the leadership is corrupt itself. So,
great. So, you're with the Constitution Party. You talk a lot about the Constitution. Tell me this: is there anything in the Constitution that you would like to see changed? Any amendments that you
Sure.
Yeah. What kind of stuff would you like to see?
Well, as far as amendments within the Bill of Rights, I think I think those are obviously the ones that we stand firm on, and we've got to. But I think that there's an opportunity to maybe hold Congress more accountable. And they're talking about a law that they want to pass, where Congress they cannot pass a law that does not apply to them, right? Like the health insurance.
Sure.
They don't have to have the health insurance that we have.
They
So I
have
think
a
that that's
better
immoral,
plan, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's immoral. So I think that, again, leadership is accountable. I won't, like, for me, the whole important reason, number one reason, regardless of what we agree on, regardless of our beliefs and where we may lie when it comes to certain issues, I guarantee to every single person that you will always be able to count on the fact that I will not let you down, and I will not walk down a path that I'm not supposed to walk down. And the reason why I bring that up is because you've got these politicians, these legislatures, these governors who are continually doing the wrong thing to benefit themselves. As we saw with Beachgate, they shut it down because they were trying to get a backroom deal made between Christie and Norcross, and which is insane. Meanwhile, you've got people out there who are struggling, working 3 jobs. Money's going, to all these different taxes, to all these different places. And what does the government do with it? They waste it. We're #1 in debt, #1 in taxation, #1 in foreclosures, #1 in business, worst in business climate, worst in people leaving, worst state for millennials, the worst and the worst and the worst. The only way to fix that is by leadership. So for me, day one, I don't take a paycheck. I'll donate it to any salary chosen by the people of New Jersey. Number 2, what I would do is I create a contract. When I make a promise and tell you something's going to get done, I am legally bound to a contract. If I lie and break that promise, $10,000 comes out of each pocket and goes to both the Republican and Democratic parties. That's a guarantee. And why do I do that? Not because I want to have gimmicks, but because we need to have somebody that steps forward and says, I'll be the first one to take the bullet. I'll be the first one to show you, the people, that I stand for you, not against you.
So you said you have a contract.
That's correct.
You already signed it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
If I get elected, it gets signed.
Elected,
If I get
you won't take a salary. That's a big salary. It's $175K.
That's right.
You don't want it.
Donate it to any charity chosen by the people. We'll have a poll, and we'll let the people of New Jersey pick and decide what charities they want it to go to.
Okay. So tell us about, big issue here, at least in Middlesex County, transportation. New Jersey Transit quality of service is going down, fares have gone up.
Yeah.
What are you going to do to tackle that problem to, get people riding the trains and buses?
Right, so you want to make it more efficient, right? But we can't do that. We have an infrastructure problem in our state, $130 billion in infrastructure needs. That's a huge issue. So what we need to do is we need to be able to create revenue, and you can't create revenue by taxing people any more than they've already been taxed. So we need to be able to bring business back to our state in order to make revenue. My plan for our state is to do 2 things. 1, to eliminate the state income tax, which puts all of the money that you make back in your pocket. The government can't take it anymore. It goes right back to you. We already have a federal income tax. We don't need a state income tax. The state income tax was put into place in the 70s to reduce property taxes. How'd that work out for us? So the reality is we need to take the state income tax, we need to put it back into everybody's pocket. For the average middle working class family, it'll bring $3,500 to $5,000 back into their pockets, which is fantastic. For millennials and for young people, it will put several $100s, if not thousands of dollars as well, back into their pocket, guaranteed. You don't have to do anything except keep your job and make your money. So it's basically what you're doing now, and you'll be able to make immediately hundreds to thousands of more dollars right off the bat. Now, the second thing that we do is we eliminate the corporation tax. You cut the corporation tax for several reasons. 1, large corporations don't pay. They pay lawyers and they jump through loopholes like President Trump, right? Even though it's something that we all sit here and say, oh, it's disgusting. It's legal. They're doing it, and they're paying lawyers, and they're going through loopholes, and they're getting all kinds of kickbacks, and they're saving all kinds of money. Right now, our corporation tax makes $2.7 billion for our state.
And you want to get rid of it?
And I want to get rid of it.
Well, where are you going to get the
so this is what we're
$2.7
going to do.
billion?
This is what we're going to do, right? So you get rid of it, and then you put in the gross profits fee system. Much like there's about 11 states in our country that have a gross profit system. Mine would break it down into 3 brackets, because we have 61% of the businesses in our state fall from $500,000 or less. 13% go $10 million or more, and then the rest are in between. So what you do is you put a fee in for them to do business here. The reason why, large corporations will now be held accountable. It's either a yes, you paid, or a no, you didn't. No more loopholes. They have to pay into the system, 100%. The rest of the businesses also will want to be a part of the system, because they're going to pay much less than what the 9% tax currently is. So, for instance, $500,000 and below will no longer pay 9%, which can be hefty depending on how high you go. Instead, they're going to pay only a $1,000 fee. Now, the reason why this system works is because now the other organizations and getting the large corporations to pay into it, they now pay a fee instead of going through their loopholes, and their fee is going to be about $500,000 to $1 million. That all adds up to be over $15 billion worth of revenue. That's 5 times the amount that what we're making right now. That is how you fix the problem in our state. You create revenue, not through taxation. You don't burden the taxpayers anymore and send them flying out of our state. Instead, you cut the taxes on the business, and then in return, because we're 50th, we're the worst in the country, the businesses are fleeing. In the past 10 years, our state has lost $30 billion worth of revenue from people and businesses leaving our state. We want to flip that, and we want to get them coming back. So the system also works twofold, because now $15 billion in year 1, by year 4 or 5, we would estimate that we'd be over $30 billion a year in revenue from all the businesses coming back into our state. And because it's not a tax issue, we can't figure out, are they going to have loopholes, or are they not? It's just a fee system. So we know if they come into our state, check them off. That's money. That's money that's coming back. And that fixes every single problem that we have, especially with Amazon, with regards to Amazon coming. I don't want to pay them $7 billion to come here and do business if it's not going to pan out. Instead, why don't we just give them the incentive and say, hey, you're only going to have to pay $500,000 or $1 million. Come on into our state and bring your jobs. I think that would work a lot better.
Big issue for a lot of the candidates in this race is immigration, so-called sanctuary policies. Where do you stand on that? You said you're from a city.
I'm from Union City.
Union City. A lot of immigrants there, like New Brunswick. How do you feel about the immigrant community and how sort of that's become the preeminent issue this year?
Yeah. So I'd say it's one of the top 3 issues, right? Because the other one is legalization of marijuana, which I get asked more about than any other issue.
It's a big issue. You support it.
Yep. Yeah. So basically, with regards to immigration issue, I am not for a sanctuary state. I don't agree with that. I think that it's unconstitutional to tell the federal government that they can't do their job, which Congress has to levy the decision when it comes to immigration. With that being said, I do not plan on saying that we have to be able to round people up and throw them out. I'm not for that. I'm completely against it. I think that we should also have compassion. But at the same time, according to the Constitution, we need to make sure that the community is doing that job. We can't force the government to do the job that we, the people, should be doing. So when you have people that come into the country and they don't have papers or they're undocumented, what's the best solution? The best solution is not the government doing the job, it's the people doing the job. That's what churches have existed for. That's what religious populations and nonprofits have existed for, to be able to stand up and fight for the impoverished and for the destitute and the people that are broken within our communities. The problem is that somewhere along the line, as opposed to doing that job and going out and being good to other people, the church has taken its step back. Nonprofit organizations now take, they put maybe 15% of what they get into actually dealing with the issue that they're supposed to be dealing with. So we want to be able to encourage our state and encourage the people of our state, especially the religious population, especially the nonprofit organizations, and just anybody that feels like doing good. We want to be able to encourage them to take care and to do what the government is not supposed to be doing.
Well, so you said that sanctuary policies prevent the federal government from doing what they're supposed to do.
Right.
I don't necessarily think that's the case. Okay. But wouldn't you say that the religious institutions that you say it's their job to do something? Sure. Don't they tend to support sanctuary policies? Don't they? Isn't the whole idea of sanctuary, doesn't that come from the
Bible? Sure. But the reality is whether or not the government's supposed to do it. The government's not supposed to do that. That's supposed to come down to the local community stepping up to do it. You can sit here and you can say, I'm a Christian, I want to take care of these people. That's great.
So you'd rather have people living in churches to avoid the
No, I don't want people living in churches. What I want churches stepping up and saying, listen, we're gonna give money. We're gonna build things for you. We're gonna help you out to get papers, to get documented, to get jobs, to be able to take care of your young. We need the people to step up and do that. The government is not supposed to do that job. That's not what you don't take taxes and say, well, I want to take your money and be able to put it over here and take care of these people. You say, listen, we do have this issue. They have come here looking for help, and the people of our state and the people of our country should be stepping up to the plate to help them if they want to help them and if they want them to be able to stay here. Otherwise, if you cross a border, you cross a boundary, you're breaking the law. That is a fact. It's a broken law. Now, we don't want to sit here and just say, you know what? Throw them out or throw them in prison and lock them up forever. What we want to say instead is, hey, the nonprofit organizations and the church communities and religious communities, we want you to step up to the plate, and we want you to be able to coalesce and to bring these people what they need to help them out. It's not the government's position.
We're running out of time, so I just want to ask for anybody out there watching who might be apprehensive about putting a 30-year-old in the
Sure.
governor's mansion. What would you say about your generation and why, why it's important to have young leadership
Sure.
in Trent?
So we carry the burden. It's our burden now, millennials' burden. It's no longer the burden of the baby boomers. We've outgrown them now. We are now the biggest demographic of voters and the largest demographic, and we're going to be. And it's going to be for us to carry. You're seeing all over the world that millennials are now being put into power, and they're doing wonderful jobs. They're stepping up to the plate. And you just had a kid, I think, who was 33. And I can't remember the country, but there was just an article that was just written about him. And he's stepping up to the plate and he's doing a good job. What we need is young leadership, people that are not a part of the old system, the system where political party bosses are in control, where the political party bosses are picking and choosing, just like they did with this very election. They pick and choose the two people that they're going to put up against each other. The media control is controlled by these two parties who are paying to keep contracts between the two parties, and therefore you can't hear another choice. The reason why millennials are great and why we step up to the plate is because we believe in transparency, we believe in integrity and accountability. We may disagree on certain beliefs, but we do believe that we need to step up and have leadership that stands for the people and not against us. That's exactly what I stand for.
Thanks so much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Matthew Riccardi wants to be your next governor. He's running with the Constitution Party. Please get out there and vote, whoever you're voting for, on Tuesday, November 7th. And stay tuned. We've got more interviews coming up for you this morning. And tomorrow we'll be joined by not one but two candidates hoping to be your governor. We'll have Gina Genovese and Mr. Vincent Ross with us tomorrow. So stay tuned for more great New Brunswick Today election interviews. Thanks.